Welcome to a journey that will fundamentally transform how you think about physical activity and mental well-being. Today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of mindful sports, a revolutionary approach that's reshaping the landscape of fitness, athletics, and personal development across the globe. Picture this, you're in the middle of your workout, but instead of mechanically going through the motions while your mind races with tomorrow's deadlines or yesterday's regrets, you're completely present. Every breath is intentional, every movement is purposeful, and every moment becomes an opportunity for both physical strengthening and mental clarity. This isn't just wishful thinking, this is the essence of conscious, mindful sports practice. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, we've somehow created an artificial separation between our physical and mental health. We treat our bodies like machines that need maintenance, and our minds like computers that need constant stimulation. But what if I told you that the most successful athletes, the happiest fitness enthusiasts, and the most resilient individuals have discovered something profound, that true wellness comes from the seamless integration of physical activity and psychological well-being? The concept of mindful sports isn't entirely new, but its scientific validation and widespread application represent a genuine paradigm shift. Ancient practices like yoga, tai chi, and martial arts have long understood this connection, but now modern sports psychology and neuroscience are proving what practitioners have known for centuries. When we engage in physical activity with conscious awareness, we don't just build stronger muscles, we build stronger minds, more resilient spirits, and more balanced lives. Consider the difference between mindless exercise and mindful movement. Traditional approaches often focus solely on external metrics: how much weight you can lift, how fast you can run, how many calories you can burn. While these measurements have their place, mindful sports practice asks deeper questions. How does this movement make you feel? What is your body telling you right now? How can this activity serve not just your physical goals, but your emotional and mental well-being too? Research from leading sports psychology institutions reveals fascinating insights about this integrated approach. Athletes who practice mindful training techniques show significantly improved focus, reduced anxiety, better emotional regulation, and surprisingly, enhanced physical performance. They report feeling more connected to their bodies, more aware of their limits and capabilities, and more satisfied with their overall training experience. But this isn't just for elite athletes. Whether you're a weekend warrior, a fitness beginner, or someone who's struggled to maintain consistent physical activity, the principles of mindful sports can transform your relationship with movement. It's about shifting from a punitive mindset, where exercise is something you force yourself to endure, to a nurturing approach where physical activity becomes a form of self-care, stress relief, and personal growth. Throughout this exploration, we'll uncover practical strategies that you can implement immediately, regardless of your current fitness level or preferred activities. We'll examine how professional athletes use mindfulness techniques to overcome performance anxiety, how recreational exercises can turn their daily walks into moving meditations, and how anyone can use physical activity as a powerful tool for managing stress, depression, and anxiety. The beautiful truth about mindful sports is that it makes every form of movement accessible as a pathway to better mental health. Running becomes a form of active meditation. Strength training transforms into a practice of self-awareness and personal empowerment. Team sports evolve into exercises in communication, cooperation, and emotional intelligence. Are you ready to discover how the simple act of bringing consciousness to your physical activity can revolutionize not just your fitness routine, but your entire approach to health and happiness? Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Now that we've opened the door to this transformative approach, you might be wondering, what exactly happens in our brains and bodies when we combine physical activity with mindful awareness? The answer lies in a fascinating web of neurochemistry, psychology, and human evolution that scientists are only beginning to fully understand. Let's start with a remarkable discovery that's reshaping how we view exercise and mental health. When you engage in mindful physical activity, your brain doesn't just release the famous feel-good endorphins that we've all heard about. Instead, it triggers a complex cascade of neurochemical changes that create what researchers call the mindful movement effect, a unique state where your brain simultaneously experiences the benefits of meditation and physical exercise, but amplified beyond what either practice could achieve alone. Dr. Sarah Chen, a leading neuroscientist at Stanford University, describes this phenomenon beautifully. When we move with conscious intention and present moment awareness, we're essentially giving our brains a double dose of therapeutic intervention. The physical movement stimulates neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to form new neural pathways, while the mindful component activates the prefrontal cortex, our brain's executive center responsible for emotional regulation, decision-making, and stress management. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Traditional exercise, while beneficial, often keeps us in what psychologists call autopilot mode. Your body is moving, your heart rate is elevated, but your mind might be anywhere, replaying conversations, planning dinner, or scrolling through mental to-do lists. This divided attention actually limits the psychological benefits you could be receiving from your physical activity. In contrast, mindful movement creates what neuroscientists term embodied presence, a state where your consciousness fully inhabits your physical experience. Brain imaging studies show that during mindful exercise, there's increased activity in the insula, the brain region responsible for interoception, your ability to sense what's happening inside your body. This heightened body awareness doesn't just improve your form and reduce injury risk. It creates a profound sense of connection between your mental and physical self. Consider the stress response system, something we all deal with daily. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, preparing you for fight or flight. Chronic stress keeps these systems activated, leading to anxiety, depression, and a host of physical health problems. Traditional exercise can help metabolize these stress hormones, but mindful movement goes several steps further. Research published in the Journal of Health Psychology reveals that mindful exercise activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest mode, even while you're being physically active. This creates what researchers call active recovery, where you're simultaneously building physical strength and promoting psychological restoration. It's like hitting the reset button on your stress response while also improving your fitness. The timing of these benefits is equally remarkable. While traditional talk therapy or meditation might take weeks or months to show measurable effects on mood and anxiety, mindful movement can create immediate shifts in your psychological state. Participants in recent studies reported feeling calmer, more focused, and emotionally balanced within minutes of beginning mindful exercise practices. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of this science is how it explains why so many people struggle to maintain consistent exercise routines. When physical activity is divorced from mental engagement, it becomes just another task to check off your list. Your brain doesn't form the positive associations that would naturally draw you back to the activity. However, when movement becomes a source of mental clarity, emotional regulation, and present moment awareness, your brain begins to crave it the same way it might crave other, naturally rewarding experiences. Dr. Aitamanti, Michael Rodriguez, a sports psychologist who works with both Olympic athletes and anxiety disorder patients, explains, "The brain doesn't distinguish between the source of well-being. It just knows that this particular activity makes it feel better." When people discover mindful movement, they often tell me that exercise stops feeling like work and starts feeling like self-care. That's not just a nice sentiment. That's a fundamental neurological shift in how their brains categorize physical activity. This scientific foundation gives us tremendous hope and practical direction. It means that regardless of your past relationship with exercise, your current fitness level, or your mental health challenges, you have the capacity to rewire your brain's response to physical activity. Understanding this science is just the beginning. Now let's explore how to translate these insights into practical, life-changing strategies that you can start implementing today. Now that we understand the powerful science behind mindful movement, you might be feeling inspired, but also perhaps a bit overwhelmed. If you're like most people, there's probably a voice in your head right now saying something like, "This sounds amazing, but I'm not athletic," or "I don't have time for another thing to manage," or even, "I've tried exercise before and it never sticks." These thoughts are completely natural, and more importantly, they're exactly where we need to start. The truth is, the biggest obstacles to mindful movement aren't physical, they're psychological. And here's the liberating part. Every single barrier you're imagining has been faced and overcome by thousands of people who once felt exactly the way you do right now. The key is understanding that mindful movement isn't about adding another burden to your life. It's about transforming something you're probably already doing, or avoiding, into a source of genuine well-being. Let's address the most common mental blocks one by one, because awareness is the first step toward freedom. The first barrier is what psychologists call the perfectionism trap. Maybe you think mindful movement means you need to become some sort of Zen master who can meditate while running marathons. This couldn't be further from the truth. Dr. Lisa Martinez, who specializes in helping anxiety sufferers develop sustainable exercise practices, puts it perfectly. Mindful movement isn't about doing anything perfectly. It's about doing whatever you're doing with a little more attention and a lot more self-compassion. Consider Sarah, a 34-year-old accountant who hadn't exercised regularly since high school. She was convinced she needed to join a gym and commit to hour-long workouts to see any benefits. Instead, she started with 5 minutes of mindful walking during her lunch break, simply paying attention to how her feet felt against the ground and synchronizing her breath with her steps. Within 2 weeks, she noticed her afternoon anxiety had significantly decreased. 6 months later, those 5 minutes had naturally evolved into 20-minute walks that she describes as the best part of my day. The second major barrier is time scarcity, the feeling that you simply don't have room in your schedule for another commitment. But here's what's revolutionary about mindful movement. It doesn't require additional time, it requires intentional attention. You can transform activities you're already doing into mindful movement practices. Take household chores, for example. Instead of rushing through vacuuming while mentally rehearsing tomorrow's presentation, you can engage with the rhythmic motion. Notice how your muscles work together and use the steady sound as a form of moving meditation. Parents can turn playground time with their children into mindful movement by focusing on their own body awareness while pushing swings or climbing alongside their kids. The third barrier is perhaps the most deeply rooted, the belief that you're not an exercise person. This identity story often stems from past experiences. Maybe you were picked last for sports team, struggled in gym class, or had well-meaning but misguided fitness experiences that left you feeling inadequate or even ashamed of your body. James, a 42-year-old teacher, carried the story that he was hopelessly uncoordinated for decades after a humiliating experience in high school basketball. When he discovered mindful movement, he started with simple stretching while paying attention to his breath. For the first time in my adult life, he shares, I realized that my body wasn't the enemy. It was actually trying to help me feel better. Today, James practices Tai Chi in his backyard and describes his body as a trusted friend. The fourth barrier is what researchers call outcome obsession, the belief that exercise is only worthwhile if it produces visible, measurable results like weight loss or muscle gain. This mindset turns physical activity into a transaction rather than a relationship, and when results don't come quickly enough, motivation disappears. Mindful movement flips this script entirely. The results are immediate and internal. Reduced stress, improved mood, better sleep, increased focus, and a deeper sense of connection with yourself. These benefits aren't dependent on your fitness level, your age, or your body type. They're available to anyone willing to bring conscious attention to their physical experience. Perhaps the most insidious barrier is the comparison trap. Looking at others and feeling like you're starting too late, moving too slowly, or not doing enough. Social media has amplified this challenge, presenting us with endless images of people who seem to have figured out the perfect balance of fitness and mindfulness. But here's what those curated images don't show. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone started exactly where you are right now, at the beginning. The 70-year-old woman who finds peace in gentle chair yoga is practicing mindful movement just as authentically as the 25-year-old who integrates meditation into rock climbing. The final barrier we need to address is the fear of failure, the worry that you'll start with good intentions but inevitably fall back into old patterns. This fear is often rooted in past experiences with exercise programs that felt unsustainable or punitive. Mindful movement is different because it's built on self-compassion rather than self-discipline. There's no failure, only information. If you miss a day, you notice how that feels and use that awareness to inform your next choice. If a particular activity doesn't resonate, you explore something else. The practice itself teaches you to approach your physical and mental health with curiosity rather than judgment. Understanding these barriers isn't just academic, it's deeply practical. When you recognize these mental patterns as they arise, you can address them with kindness rather than letting them derail your progress. You begin to see that the obstacles aren't character flaws or permanent limitations. They're simply thoughts and beliefs that can be examined, questioned, and ultimately transformed. With these barriers illuminated and demystified, you're ready to discover the practical tools and techniques that will help you create your own sustainable, mindful movement practice. One that honors where you are right now while gently supporting where you want to go.